I live alone in a one-bedroom apartment on the third floor of a building that's not quite old enough to be charming and not new enough to be sleek. Just functional. Quiet, mostly. My job's the typical 9-to-5 grind, nothing special. I get home, heat up whatever's left in the fridge, and either scroll on my phone or throw on something mindless until I fall asleep. It's not a glamorous life, but it's comfortable. Or it used to be. This started last week. I didn't think anything of it at first. It was a Tuesday, I think. I'd gone to bed a little later than usual. Around 2 a.m. I remember that detail because I'd glanced at the clock when I turned off the bedside lamp. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, half lulled by the low hum of the fridge from the kitchen and the distant drone of a car passing by on the street below. That's when I felt it. Just the faintest touch. Something brushed my right ankle. You know how it is when you're just about to fall asleep, your brain starts floating, and reality gets slippery. I figured it was a muscle twitch, or maybe I'd kicked the sheet weird. I even told myself it might have been static from the blanket. My body jerked instinctively, pulling my foot up, tucking both legs closer under the blanket. But it lingered in my mind longer than it should have. I sat up, just to check. My room looked the same as always. The bed was against the far wall, low to the ground but with just enough space underneath for storage bins I never filled. The door was cracked open, just like I left it. I hate sleeping with it fully closed for some reason. Childhood habit, maybe. I stared into the dark slit of the hallway beyond, then down to the foot of my bed. Nothing. Eventually, I lay back down, pulled the covers tighter around me, and told myself to stop being stupid. I didn't sleep well that night. The next night, I went to bed trying not to think about it. Honestly, I felt a little silly for even remembering it. I mean, people imagine stuff all the time before falling asleep. Hypnagogic hallucinations. I looked it up during lunch at work like some kind of armchair psychologist. It was normal. Explained. Done. But I left the bedside lamp on this time. Dimmed, but on. Around 1:30 a.m., just when I was drifting into that half-sleep state again, I thought I heard something. It wasn't a loud noise. It was barely there. The kind of sound you only notice because of how quiet everything else is. A sort of shifting. Like fabric brushing against itself. Or skin against carpet. Slow. Deliberate. Close. I froze. Didn't open my eyes at first. Just listened. The sound came again, faint, but definitely from my room. From below. From the floor. My body tensed up in a way I haven't felt since I was a kid and convinced there was a monster in the closet. My heart started pounding, ears rushing with blood, but I forced myself to look. There was nothing. Of course. No light flickered. No shadow moved. But I sat up anyway and leaned over the edge of the bed, squinting down into the gap between the floor and the mattress. Just enough space to slide your arm under, or maybe wedge a few shoeboxes. Just darkness. Still, I got out of bed, crouched down, and lifted the hanging sheet to check underneath. My phone flashlight trembled in my hand as I swept it across the floorboards. Empty. Completely. No dust. No bugs. No weird stains. Just the same bare wood and hollow silence. Still, something about the air felt wrong. Like it had shifted subtly, thicker somehow. Like the room was holding its breath. I told myself it was nothing. Again. But I slept with the covers pulled all the way to my chin and my feet tucked in tight. And this time, I kept my legs well away from the edge of the bed. By the third night, I started to feel watched. It's hard to explain. Nothing had changed in my routine. I still came home, made dinner, zoned out with TV or a podcast, and tried to wind down. But everything felt slightly off. Like my apartment wasn't quite mine anymore. The air felt heavier when I walked in, not in a dramatic way, just thicker. A little colder, maybe. I even checked the thermostat to make sure the heating hadn't shut off. It hadn't. Still, I put on a hoodie inside, even though I never usually wear one at home. That night, I was extra tired. Didn't stay up late. Didn't scroll. Just brushed my teeth and climbed into bed by midnight. And that's when I noticed the draft. There's no window near my bed. The only window in the bedroom is on the other side, near the desk. Closed. Locked. But as I lay there, I felt this distinct chill coming from the floor, from under the bed. It wasn't strong, but it was constant, like sitting too close to a freezer door that's just slightly ajar. I dangled my hand over the edge of the mattress for a second, reaching toward the space beneath. And then I pulled it back. Not because something touched me this time, but because it was just too cold. Wrongly cold. The kind of cold that felt alive. Like it was aware of me. I couldn't fall asleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I swore I could hear something subtle, that whispery, dragging sound again, but softer this time. Less movement. More like breathing. I even got up, walked around the room. Sat in the living room for a while, just to see if maybe I was going stir crazy. It's wild how your own place can start feeling unfamiliar at night, you know? All the shadows stretch longer. Every creak sounds personal. Eventually, I forced myself to go back to bed. This time, I lay dead center on the mattress. No limbs hanging off. No shifting too close to the edge. And I slept with the hallway light on, door cracked open wider than usual. Just in case. I didn't plan on mentioning this to anyone. Honestly, what would I even say? Hey, I think my bed is breathing on me? But the next night, the 4th, it crossed the line. It was around 3 a.m. when I woke up. I didn't even realize I'd fallen asleep, but something snapped me out of it. Not a sound, not a dream, just this sudden sense of alert. Like someone had whispered my name right next to my ear. And I couldn't move for a second. Not like sleep paralysis, exactly. I could blink, shift my fingers, but my whole body felt stiff, weighed down. My legs were uncovered. I must have kicked the blanket off while turning in my sleep. That's when I felt it again. A touch. Right on my shin. It was the lightest pressure. Not like fingers, not firm enough for that. More like a hand just barely resting there. No movement. Just presence. The skin-on-skin feeling was undeniable. My eyes flew open and I stared at the ceiling, breath held, trying not to panic. It stayed there for maybe 5-10 seconds. And then it slid. Slowly, from mid-shin to ankle. I jerked my leg back so hard I nearly twisted my knee. Scrambled back against the headboard, flicked on the lamp. The sudden light stunned my eyes, but I forced myself to look. Nothing. No movement under the bed, no sound, no trace of what had just happened. But the spot where I'd been touched. Cold. As if I'd pressed it against an ice pack. I got out of bed, I didn't care how stupid I looked, and pulled the whole mattress off the frame. It was heavy and awkward, but adrenaline made it easier. Nothing underneath. No signs of anyone hiding, no holes in the floor, no weird stains or marks. Just a quiet, normal-looking floor. I even laid down on the hardwood, face pressed to the ground, looking under from different angles, like maybe I'd missed something the first 100 times. Still nothing. But I didn't sleep in that bed again that night. I slept on the couch. Lights on. Phone clutched in both hands like a lifeline. And even then, I thought I heard something shifting in the bedroom. Just once. The next day, I tried to pretend it was all in my head. Stress. Sleep deprivation. I even Googled symptoms of anxiety-related hallucinations. I convinced myself it was harmless. Some weird corner of my brain acting out. Brains do strange things, right? But deep down, I didn't believe it. I barely made it through work. I kept zoning out, imagining that cold touch on my leg, over and over. Replaying it like a bad movie I couldn't pause. Every time my phone buzzed, I jumped. When I got home that evening, I left every light in the apartment on. Bright, white, artificial light in every room, even the bathroom. I didn't care how paranoid it made me feel. But when I opened the bedroom door, the bedspread was pulled halfway to the floor. I froze in the doorway. I hadn't touched the bed since the night before, remember? I'd slept on the couch. And even then, I'd made the bed that morning before work. I'm not a neat freak, but I do that every morning without thinking. A little routine to fake structure in my life. But now the blanket was draped oddly, one corner dragged down the side, like someone had slid off the mattress or pulled it toward the floor. Not violently. Just deliberately. I stepped in slowly. The hardwood creaked under my weight. I stood at the edge of the bed, looking down at the uneven fabric. Then I noticed something else. The corner of the sheet, the fitted sheet underneath, had been peeled up just slightly. Just one corner. The next morning, I called in sick. I didn't even lie. I just said I wasn't feeling right. My voice sounded hollow on the phone, like it didn't belong to me. I wasn't sleeping, barely eating. My nerves were frayed to hell, and I kept catching myself glancing toward the hallway, like I expected someone, or something, to step out from the bedroom and just stand there. I didn't go in there that day. Not until the sun was high and bright through the windows. I opened the door slowly, like I expected it to push back. But it was quiet. Too quiet. The kind of silence that presses against your ears. I stood in the middle of the room for a while. Just listening. Watching. Eventually, I grabbed my phone and propped it up on my desk, aimed toward the bed. Hit record. Simple. No fancy setup. Just a time-lapse capture for the night. I figured if this was in my head, maybe seeing nothing on camera would help prove it to myself. Sanity check. That night, I forced myself to sleep in the bedroom again. I pushed the bed all the way into the corner, so only one side was exposed. I figured less edge, less risk. I wedged a line of hardcover books into the space between the frame and the floor, not enough to block it completely, but enough that anything trying to move under there would make noise. That's what I told myself, anyway. I left the camera running. Set it on night mode. Propped a lamp across the room so it wouldn't be pitch black. Then I lay down, fully clothed, one hand wrapped around the kitchen knife under the pillow. I didn't fall asleep right away. I don't even know if I did sleep. Everything felt stretched out, warped. The shadows seemed to lean inward a little more than usual. I must have drifted off sometime before dawn. No touch that night. No sound. Just dread. I woke up at 6 a.m. with my neck stiff and my mouth dry, and a splitting headache behind my eyes. But I was still breathing. Still whole. And the camera was still recording. Hard in my throat, I grabbed it and played it back right there at the desk. Nothing for the first few hours. Just stillness, the dim wash of lamplight, the frame of the bed unmoving. Then, around 3:41 a.m., something happened. Just a flicker. The blanket on the far corner of the bed shifted. Barely. As if something had pulled on it from underneath. Not yanked. Not thrown. Just a tug. I paused the video. Rewound. Watched it again. Same thing. Subtle. Almost missable. But it was there. I replayed that 10-second clip at least 20 times. And each time, I felt that cold, crawling sensation rise up through my spine. Because I wasn't moving. I was fast asleep. But something had been under the bed with me. Like fingers had hooked under it. I couldn't bring myself to lift it. Not right away. My heart thudded so hard I thought I might pass out. I bent down, yanked the sheet back into place as fast as I could, and practically backed out of the room. That night, I locked the bedroom door. I slept on the couch again. With a kitchen knife tucked under the cushion. Ridiculous, I know. But I had this deep, crawling sense in my stomach, like something had been in there with me. Not supernatural. Not a ghost. Something real. Something that could lift a blanket, slide a sheet, touch a leg. And the worst part? As I lay there on the couch, trying to keep my eyes open, I swore I heard a slow, steady thump from the bedroom. Once. Then silence. Then again. Thump. Like something pressing against the floor from beneath the bed. Testing it. I didn't go to work the next day either. Didn't even call in. I just sat at my kitchen table for hours, the phone in front of me, the time-lapse video still open on the screen like a loaded gun. I wanted to delete it. I wanted to pretend it never happened. But I kept watching that moment again, 3:41 a.m., frame by frame. The blanket moves. Just a ripple, like a hand brushing upward from underneath. But here's what hit me the fifth or sixth time I watched it. Before the blanket moves, there's a space. A thin, darker line appears under the bed frame. Just for a second. A shadow where there shouldn't be one, like something curled just out of view, blocking the light differently. Then the blanket twitches, and the shadow vanishes. It was subtle. If I hadn't been looking for it, I would have missed it. But I didn't miss it. I rewound again. Zoomed in. And there it was. That barely visible gap, like something with mass was hiding just inches beneath me, separated only by a thin plank of wood and a worn mattress. I started shaking. I didn't even notice until my coffee cup rattled in my hand. This wasn't a dream. This wasn't my mind playing tricks. This was physical. Real. And it had been getting bolder. That afternoon, I took the camera and shoved it under the bed. Wedged it between two shoeboxes I hadn't touched in years. A tight fit, but the lens had a decent view of the undercarriage, all shadows and dusty wood. I set it to record. Full night vision this time. Then I left the room and shut the door. I didn't sleep at all that night. Sat on the living room couch with a blanket around my shoulders, every light in the apartment on, phone in my lap, knife within reach. I didn't even turn the TV on. I didn't want sound. I wanted to hear something, if there was anything to hear. I must have nodded off at some point, because I jerked awake to the sound of something falling. A thump from the bedroom. Not loud, but deliberate. A flat impact, like a palm slapping the floor. I sat there, frozen, waiting for the follow-up sound. Nothing came. I didn't go in until dawn. The bed looked untouched. But the camera had been knocked over, lens pointed into darkness. The last frame before it went black? A blur of motion low to the floor. Something that looked like a shape. Not quite human. Not quite anything I could explain. It was still under there. And it knew I was watching. I didn't touch the bed again after that. I dragged an old futon from the closet and laid it out in the living room, even though the mattress was paper-thin and smelled like dust. It didn't matter. I couldn't be in that bedroom anymore. But here's the thing. The noises followed me. The second night on the futon, just after 2 a.m., I heard the floor creak in the bedroom. A slow, measured sound. Not the random pop of old wood contracting. Not the building settling. This was a weight shifting. Pressure against boards. Then, a soft drag. Like fingernails across carpet. Except I don't have carpet. I sat up slowly, holding my breath. I didn't move, didn't make a sound. Just listened. The sound stopped. Then it came again, closer. Like something was crawling across the floorboards toward the hallway. Toward me. I gripped the knife, hard hammering. My first thought was, someone's in here. That primal, survival fear kicking in. I waited. Barely blinking. Nothing. Then, around 3 a.m., the futon shifted beneath me. Just a little. But I felt it. A change in weight. Like something was pressing up from underneath. Now let me be clear, the futon was flat on the floor. Nothing under it. No space. But still, that sensation came back. Pressure. Then something pushed against my lower back. Gentle. Deliberate. Just 2 points of contact, like fingertips testing the curve of my spine. I rolled off the futon in an instant, crashing onto the floor, scattering the blankets. I scrambled up and turned, breath heaving, knife up. No one there. No mark. No sound. But the spot on my back felt cold again. Like the heat had been drawn out of it. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. Sat in the kitchen until the sun came up, lights flickering slightly, eyes darting to every sound, the hum of the fridge, the rattle of a pipe, the shifting groan of the walls. I started to wonder if it was following me. Not just confined to the bed. It liked tight spaces. Spaces between things. And it had figured out how to reach through them. I couldn't take it anymore, the uncertainty, the waiting, the not knowing what was real. I needed answers, even if they scared the hell out of me. Maybe especially if they did. So I bought a cheap endoscope camera online. One of those thin, flexible cameras on a wire, the kind plumbers use to check inside walls or drains. It hooks into your phone, lets you see what the lens sees in real time. The reviews said the picture was decent in low light. It arrived the next day. I didn't sleep the night before. Just waited. When the box came, I opened it with the care of someone defusing a bomb. Hands trembling, mouth dry. I didn't eat. Didn't drink. Just plugged it into my phone, checked that it worked, and coiled the wire carefully in my hands. Then I went into the bedroom. I stood at the edge of the bed, staring down at the floor. I hadn't been in there since the last video. The mattress looked untouched. Still. Blank. I got down on my knees, lifted the blanket, and fed the endoscope wire slowly under the bed. The screen on my phone showed the edge of the frame, the dull wood slats, a few dust bunnies. Nothing out of place. I pushed it further in. The view shifted, past the support beams, the far leg of the bed, the strip of hardwood along the wall. Then the screen glitched. Just for a second. A flicker of static, like interference. I froze. The camera came back into focus, but something had changed. There was a shape in the far corner. A soft mound of shadow, not quite touching the floor. Not dust. Not clothing. It looked like skin. I couldn't move. The image on my phone pulsed slightly. Not from the device, from the thing on screen. It rose and fell gently, like it was breathing. Then it shifted. A ripple moved across the surface of it. A suggestion of joints. And then, out of the corner of the frame, I saw it. A finger. Long bony. Jointed at the wrong angle. It slid forward across the floor, slow and silent, the tip dragging ever so slightly. And then a second finger. The hand came into view. It didn't look right. The proportions were off, the palm too narrow, the fingers too long, the skin a mottled, pale gray that didn't reflect light the way it should. The nails, or claws, maybe, scraped faintly against the wood. And then the hand turned, slowly, deliberately, like it had noticed the camera. The fingers curled around the slat of wood. And then it pulled itself closer. I yanked the endoscope out so fast I nearly flung my phone across the room. Fell backward, hit my shoulder on the doorframe. I didn't even go back in for the camera wire. I slammed the bedroom door and wedged a chair under the handle. But that night? I still heard it moving around in there. The pull of it was irresistible. You might think I'm insane for even considering it, but by then, I was desperate. I had no choice. I needed answers. I couldn't live like this anymore, not knowing what the hell had been creeping around my apartment, under my bed, testing the edges of my sanity. I spent the day preparing. I taped up all the windows. I locked the front door. I pulled every piece of furniture away from the walls, checking every corner, every crack, every possible hiding place. I checked the locks again, and then once more, just to be sure. But even as I did all that, I knew what I was about to do was reckless. Dangerous. The kind of thing people in horror stories do before everything goes wrong. I took the same knife I'd been clutching for days. I didn't even think about it. I just grabbed it and hid it in my waistband. A last line of defense, maybe. Or maybe I was trying to convince myself that I wasn't completely out of my mind. When the sun set and the room grew darker, I positioned myself on the couch. I sat facing the hallway, as close to the bedroom door as I could without crossing it. I had the knife next to me, and I held my phone tightly in my hands. I didn't want to watch anymore, not after the camera, but I also couldn't look away. It was a sick fascination. At 2 a.m. it happened. The same creak. The same low drag across the floor, like something deliberate and slow inching toward me. But this time, it wasn't a suggestion, it was there. I could feel it, pressing into the silence of the apartment. I didn't look immediately. I didn't even breathe. Then I heard it. The faintest click of claws on wood. It was coming down the hallway. I couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't just sit there. With the sharpest breath I could manage, I jumped up, grabbed the knife, and threw open the bedroom door. Nothing. At first. I stepped in, half blinded by the dark. I couldn't see a thing at first, but I could feel it. The air had changed again. It was thick, heavy. Something had shifted in that room. And then I heard the soft, dragging sound again. Closer. My heart nearly stopped. I turned to the edge of the bed. I took a step forward, knife held tight. And that's when I saw it. A hand. But not just any hand. It was stretched out, pale and too long, fingers curled unnaturally, the claws scraping along the wood, trying to pull itself out. Not from under the bed, but from within it. The wood was bending under it. The shape was coming through the slats, like a rotted, deformed arm had slipped past the frame itself. I stumbled back, knife raised, breath trapped in my throat. My knees buckled, and I dropped to the floor, eyes wide. And that's when I saw it. A face. Or what was left of one. It was an image I can't unsee. Too pale. Too twisted. Eyes wide, black pits. The skin was crawling over the bones, pulling and stretching in ways no human skin should ever do. It wasn't fully visible, just a glimpse, just enough to make my stomach flip in horror. I backed out of the room, scrambling to my feet, holding the knife with shaking hands. But it wasn't finished. I could hear it moving again, deeper in the room. The sounds weren't random anymore. They were fast. Urgent. Like it was hunting now, coming after me. I ran. Out of the apartment, out the door, and I didn't stop running until I reached the street. Barefoot. No phone. No jacket. I just kept going. I didn't even care that I was half out of my mind. I don't know how long I was gone. I just remember standing outside, gasping for breath, terrified to go back. I haven't been back to that apartment since. It's been a week. I can't bring myself to go near the building. I haven't been able to sleep. I still hear that dragging sound sometimes, when I close my eyes. But it's more than that now. I'm not sure it's over. And I'm not sure I ever really left. I didn't mean to go back. I swear to you I didn't. I'd been crashing on a friend's couch, barely talking, barely eating. Just existing. I told him something vague, stress, bad sleep, maybe a break-in. He didn't ask too many questions, which I appreciated. But the truth buzzed in the back of my skull like a mosquito you can't swat. I kept thinking about that hand, that face, the way it had looked at me without moving. Every time I shut my eyes, I saw it again. Felt that cold breath against my ankle. Heard the scrape of claws on wood. But still, I wasn't going to go back. Not until I got the call. It was the landlord. He said a neighbor reported hearing noises from my unit. Said it sounded like someone moving furniture, maybe dragging something heavy. But no one had seen me enter or leave in days. "Could you stop by? Just to check on the place," he said. I didn't want to. Every cell in my body screamed not to. But some twisted sense of responsibility made me agree. When I got there, the hallway smelled faintly of dust and old paint. Same as always. The building didn't care what I'd seen inside it. The door to my unit looked untouched. No signs of forced entry. Everything exactly as I'd left it. Except the bedroom light was on. I know, I turned everything off before I ran. I unlocked the door slowly, holding my breath. The apartment was still. Silent. No signs of movement. But that light from the bedroom bled softly across the floor, pooling into the hallway like a quiet threat. I didn't go in. I just stood there, heart hammering, staring at the open door. The bed was visible from the hallway now, the mattress slightly off-center. Like something had shifted it. The blanket pulled tight, but wrong. Too flat, like it had been carefully arranged. And then I saw it. The sheet. Tucked tight. Too tight. The corners squared off like hospital corners, a habit I never had. And the foot of the bed, slightly raised. Just a sliver. Like something was pushing up from beneath it. My chest tightened. I backed away, ready to shut the door and leave for good. That's when my foot hit something. I looked down. It was my endoscope camera. The one I'd dropped. Just sitting there on the floor near the couch, neatly coiled. Untangled. Placed there. I hadn't touched it. I left without touching anything else. Closed the door. Locked it. Told the landlord it was fine, nothing to worry about. But I haven't slept since. Because when I bent down to pick up the camera, I glanced toward the mirror above the desk. And in the reflection, just for a moment, I saw something under the bed shift. Something with long, crooked fingers. And it looked like it was smiling. I didn't go to the apartment after that. But I didn't get far from it either. I tried to go back to my friend's place, but I couldn't sit still. Couldn't be in a room with a bed. Any bed. Every time I tried to lie down, I imagined what might be underneath. My feet curled up automatically. My back tensed like I was bracing for that cold, quiet touch. The thing is, it didn't stay behind. The first night away, I stayed in a motel. One of those depressing places with yellow lighting and scratchy sheets. I thought maybe the sterile ugliness would help. That I'd finally get some distance. That I could reset my brain. But I woke up at 2:13 a.m. to a sound I knew too well. A faint scratching. Low. Close. Beneath me. I didn't move. I just listened. It was steady. Methodical. Like fingernails dragging slowly across cheap wood, or the underside of the box spring. I forced myself to sit up, heart in my throat. And there it was. The blanket was stretched tight across my legs. Too tight. As if someone, or something, had pulled it taut from underneath. Not bunched. Not tangled. Pinned. I kicked out with both feet, shoved myself off the mattress. The blanket released instantly. I hit the floor hard, but didn't care. I scrambled up and flipped the mattress over in one frantic motion, expecting, what? A body? A hand? There was nothing under it. But the scratching didn't stop. It was inside the bed. Inside the actual material. I leaned down and pressed my ear to the mattress, and that's when I heard it, a faint, rhythmic thumping, like knuckles tapping from inside the coils. I left the room. Didn't check out. Didn't take anything with me. Just drove. For hours. But no matter where I went, the feeling followed. Now I hear the scratching in the walls. Sometimes in the floorboards. Sometimes I wake up in the car and swear I see something in the rearview mirror. A shape, crouched low in the back seat, smiling just wide enough to show too many teeth. I think it's hiding in tight spaces. Waiting. Watching. It doesn't need my apartment anymore. It's found me. I don't remember falling asleep last night. Not in the normal sense. 1 minute I was parked in the lot of a closed gas station, engine off, seat reclined, trying to steady my breathing, and the next, it was 3:04 a.m. My phone was buzzing in my lap. But that's not what woke me. What woke me was the pressure. That same, slow, familiar pressure on my ankle. Even in the driver's seat, it had found me. I looked down, barely able to move, and I swear on everything I have left, there was a hand reaching through the gap between the seat and the floor. Wedged between the center console and the frame. Fingers so long they bent backward just to fit. Gray, dry skin pulling tight over the bones, one claw resting gently against my leg like it was claiming me. I screamed. Slammed open the door and tumbled out into the dirt, scraping my arm hard on the asphalt. My flashlight app was still open on the phone. I used it to search under the car, all around the frame. Nothing. No one. But the passenger door was open. And I hadn't touched it. It was just waiting in there. Quiet. Still. Like a shadow that forgot it wasn't supposed to move on its own. Later, when I sat shaking in the driver's seat, too numb to cry, I remembered something. A memory. One I hadn't thought about in years. When I was a kid, maybe 7 or 8, I used to swear there was something under my bed. Not in a cute, childish way. I mean truly terrified. I used to scream for my parents because I felt something tug the sheets at night. Once I even saw a hand. I remember the way the fingers curled around the edge of the mattress, slowly rising. They said it was a dream. They even made me sleep on the floor after a while. Said I was being dramatic. They laughed about it at dinner parties. But what if it wasn't a dream? What if this thing, whatever it is, found me then, and just waited? What if it never left? Maybe it doesn't haunt houses. Maybe it haunts people. I think I've been carrying it with me this whole time, like some horrible parasite nesting in the corners of my life. It doesn't want to kill me. It wants to be close. To live in that last inch of space between the mattress and the floor. Between the cushion and the wall. Between breath and sleep. It waits for you to forget. And then it touches. I made the mistake of thinking I could outlast it. That if I kept moving, if I avoided beds, shadows, tight spaces, if I never slept in the same place twice, I'd eventually shake it off. That it would get bored. That it would crawl back into whatever dark place it came from. But this thing doesn't leave. It waits. It adapts. And last night, it stopped hiding. I was staying in an old roadside motel again, off some nameless stretch of highway. I didn't even ask for a key. The clerk just nodded, slid it across the counter without a word. Room 103. Inside, the air was stale. The carpet worn thin. The bed had a low frame, the kind you think nothing could possibly crawl under. I didn't lie on it. I pulled the chair from the corner of the room and sat by the door, back to the wall, knife in hand. I must have nodded off. I don't know how long I was out. But I woke to the sound of scratching. Clothes. Not on the floor this time. Above me. On the ceiling. I looked up slowly. Hard thudding. Knife clutched so tight my knuckles burned. And there it was. A hand upside down, pressing from the inside of the ceiling tile. The tips of the fingers made slight impressions in the material, dragging slowly in a circle. Then a second hand joined it. Then something began pushing downward. The tile flexed, buckled slightly, like someone was pressing their face into plastic wrap. I didn't see features. Just movement. A distorted bulge forming above me, stretching out, trembling with effort. That's when the light in the bathroom flicked on by itself. The door creaked open. And in the mirror on the opposite wall I saw it. Fully. Not just a hand. Not just a face. A figure, long and impossibly thin, curled in the mirror's reflection like it was standing behind me. Watching. Smiling. I spun around. Nothing. But when I turned back, the mirror was cracked. A thin, hairline fracture down the center, like something had touched it from the inside. I lost it then. I trashed the place. Tore open every cabinet, every drawer. Broke the legs off the bed. Ripped the back off the dresser. And then I did something I hadn't done before. I lay flat on the floor. Pressed my cheek to the cold tile. And whispered, "What are you?" For a moment, silence. Then, a breath. A low, rasping sound from beneath the floor, so close I could feel it against my skin. Then a voice. Not words. Just a sound like fingernails on teeth. And then a hand, pale, gnarled, and far too large, pushed through the gap beneath the bed frame I'd broken, and reached slowly toward my face. Not to hurt me. To touch me. Like a greeting. A reminder. It knows I see it now. And it's not hiding anymore. I don't sleep anymore. Not in the way you're supposed to. I drift in and out, minutes at a time, eyes wide open, mind looping through static and fear, waiting to feel that soft, terrible touch again. Sometimes I do. Not always on my ankle. Not always at night. Once it brushed the back of my neck in a gas station restroom. Once, in a grocery store, I felt a sharp nail trail across my wrist while my hands were in my pockets. There's no escaping it now. I've learned something about it. Not everything, not what it wants, not where it came from, and not how it got to me in the first place. But I know this. It doesn't need a bed. That was just the beginning. The invitation. It needs a gap. The kind your brain stops thinking about once you're used to a space. The space under a couch. The space between your car seat and the console. The space behind a door that's slightly ajar at night. The space beneath your pillow. It waits in those places. And when you forget, when you feel safe, it reminds you. The worst part? I think I passed it to someone. About 3 days ago, I took a rideshare. I was too tired to drive. Too tired to think. I must have nodded off in the back seat. When I woke up, the driver was pale, eyes wide, one hand trembling on the wheel. He didn't say anything, but I saw it. In the mirror. The way his eyes kept darting toward the back seat. Like he felt it too. Like he'd felt the hand brush the side of his neck. I got out. Said nothing. I haven't been in a car since. And now. I'm writing this from a coffee shop. There's a space between the floor and the counter here. I keep glancing down at it. There's no reason to. I just can't help it. I don't know how many people it's touched. I don't know how long it stays with you once it does. But if you've ever woken up in the middle of the night, heart pounding, certain something just touched your leg. If you've ever looked under your bed and thought you saw something pull back before you flipped on the light. If you've ever felt watched in your own home and told yourself it was just your imagination. It wasn't. It's always looking for the next quiet place to crawl into. And now, maybe, because you've read this, you've given it just enough space. Don't leave your feet hanging off the edge tonight.